we have analysts who have come to represent different categories of entrepreneurship, and we thank them all for being here. And we thank all the attendees for taking out time and being here. And we all also look forward to your inputs because that's very, very important. And and now we have a very renowned business journalist, Mr. Ritik Mukherjee. नाम ही काफी है, and he is going to be moderating the session. So it's all yours, Ritik.
Thank you, Shulinda. Thank you everybody for being here today, this evening. As Shulinda explained, we are going to discuss about budget expectations. Budget is something which reflects the kind of roadmap that the country is going to take going forward. Naturally, there are expectations from different stakeholders of the Indian economy. I'm glad that today's panel, plus all the attendees, they represent cross-section of the industry and business from different segments and verticals. So to start with or to kick off the discussion, I would like to have a kind of common introductory remark and observations from all of our panelists. On my right is Mr. Sanjay Chhajar, who is the BNI Executive Director, BNI Kolkata South. Somnath Chatterjee will be joining us shortly. We have Mr. Deepak Agarwal, founder, Labh Desi and Onyx. Arun Mukherjee, I don't think he'll be coming. Then Mr. Abhishek Verma, who is the president of Calcutta Electric Dealers Association. On my left is Ritoprodo Mukherjee, director, sales and marketing, MSET Healthcare Private Limited. Ajay Mittal is the partner and lead, responsible business advisory, EWX. So to start with, I will go over to Mr. Sanjay Chhajar and have your kind of opening remarks on where does the Indian economy stand today, on the basis of which we can expect something, or can we expect that the government will carry forward its reforms agenda in a bolder form, so to say. So where does Indian economy stand, according to you?
We all know that India is now fourth largest economy in the world, and with the political situation, I think that as far as internal politics is concerned, I think this current government is much more confident than what it was in the last few years, and general elections being still far away. So I am expecting definitely that the mission of our 30 trillion economy, for that we will be working strongly and we will take all the necessary steps to achieve that. So I don't have any inhibition and saying that definitely there will be some strong steps to ensure that the economy gets a strong boost.
So let's really know. I will come to whatever your sector's specific expectations are, but first the general observation in Indian economy. What would be your expectation on the basis of that?
Indian economy is doing great. The government has focused on the inclusive growth of all the stratas of the society. But one thing the government should emphasize more on the buying power of middle class. Middle class spends more, and middle class, the population of middle class is the highest amongst all the categories. So the government should help and bring more tax reforms for the middle class. Middle class will propel India to the superpower in next 10 years. Middle class.
It's a great Indian middle class.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I absolutely agree with sir what he said. Like, middle class contribute a huge part of our population. So I think any tax relaxation on them would kind of boost business across industries and sectors, and that will surely increase the demand, like more disposable income we have in hand. So the main, the thing which we need to figure out is how to get more money in the hand of people. Obviously not through subsidies and stuff like that, but in a way which can increase productivity and can boost more demand. So absolutely, I think even I will be looking forward to having some tax relaxation, no matter even if it's in a small way. So that will surely boost the demand.
Including that, initially, with current GST reforms also, we have seen a lot of good revisions in GST. For example, in mineral water, it was previously placed at 18% GST, now it's 10% GST. So now there has been a lot of reforms which has been happening in the last 2 to 3 years, and this budget specifically would be overlooking at many aspects, like for example GST unity for medical devices, which is relevant to my industry. And in terms of the total budget, we are in a growing mode right now with Make in India in a full form. We are hopeful to see a good focus towards new innovations. That's what we are looking for, and a good focus towards R&D, because that's from us, from healthcare or any kind of new revolution we are looking for, specifically on health tech AI. That's it.
Good evening, everyone. So I see there is a common thing when we talk about budgets and economy. We just focus on one dimension, and I think my point is that it is time that we start looking for more short-term, from more short-term to long-term perspectives, and we cannot continue to ignore the impacts of growth and the second-order impacts of such decisions. When we talk about when we think in short term, we ignore some of the consequences that can happen in short term, and when I mean long term, I mean the impact of climate change on the economy. If you remember very recently at Davos, what the former IMF had mentioned in context of Indian economy is that it is a bigger problem to look at air pollution in context of India rather than talking about tariffs. And I think that is very important for now budgets to consider, because these are not decisions which are popular when you come out with such a budget. It may not be politically very relevant to come up with such things, but this has impact which are in the long term, and we cannot continue to ignore this.
Namaste everyone. I think what Ajay said makes a great sense. But before that, I would like to have my opinion. Where Sanjay ji started, very true. I think India is one of the promising growing country across the world. So this budget will have a lot of investment opportunity where we can invite a lot of business across the world to come and explore investment into India. This has been in news in today's morning as well. Okay, this budget will open up the door as well. India is one of the safest country right now, and having a positive GDP and everything. So that is a way. Yes, Ajay, what you said is also required in the budget. If not today, but maybe sometime, because we might grow, but we should be peaceful as well. We should have a longer planet to live in. So I also request maybe we have some budget for that one, where we have a sustainable earth on this world.
Sector. As we all know, that technology adoption is a kind of top of the town. Everybody is talking about any sector. Across sectors, one has to do technological adoption, and the faster one can do it, the faster one can move going forward. So in terms of technology adoptions, one needs to spend fund also. Are you looking at or expecting some kind of specialty, some sort, some incentive, so that technological adoption can move faster?
So luckily, I representing BNI, represent the MSME sector, and my personal business is into IT infrastructure. So I represent, I think that's very relevant for me. And see, I think that the MSME sector represents 33% of the economy of this country. And as I was reading, it's 50% of the exports that we do MSME. So if India is needing growth, it has to be on the basis of MSME. And the reach of MSME is still very low as far as government or institutions are concerned. There's a lot to do. And if MSME has to grow rapidly, technology is the only option. If they are to scale up, whether to survive, they have to adopt technology as much as possible. So government has to ensure, and government has to look at this, that how fast this SME sector adopts newer technology, and they are competing with the entire world, even the larger organizations as well, as far as technology usage is concerned. And I think that the government must look into it, how they can be taken care of. So I was just thinking, and it was actually a personal idea that how it can be subsidized. So every MSME, it should be, it's imperative for them, as I mentioned, that they need to adopt technology. So while they're adopting technology, definitely it's getting into a, it needs to be subsidized, but they're looking at the way the options are having. So in case the profit they are making out of the adoption of technology, and the income tax on that, I think should be subsidized with the gap of 5 years. So something like that, so that the incentive, the MSME is really incentivized to adopt technology and grow their business, and they get a benefit in the income tax for using the technology and growing as well. So both the areas will be taken care of using the technology, and the growth sector both will be incentivized. So that is my take on how technology can be subsidized by the government.
And that, in fact, is a very good idea if, in terms of technology adoption, if someone gets some kind of subsidy or incentive, that will be good. That will give encouragement for further technology adoption as well. Like MSME, startup is another emerging sector. You represent startup sectors also. As we know, economy broadly has two sides: supply side and demand side. From your perspective, you need demand, but there has to be a supply from the market as well. When it comes to the economy holistically as a whole, which sector of the, or which segment of this demand or supply, which side should be boosted more from the government side, so that startups like you, or maybe if the government pushes more towards infrastructural development, then automatically there are more capital investments into this economy, which eventually results in kind of higher purchasing power. That will also be helpful for. So what kind of incentives or what kind of expectations you have, so that startups like you can actually flourish more?
I think today logistics is probably one of the biggest pain point for any startup, like especially companies like product company or consumer company and D2C companies, right? So like if we look at globally, the logistics cost as a GDP is to be around 7 to 8%, but in India today that is close to 14-15% as a GDP, right? So I think like we should rather focus on the longer term vision, and we should figure out how to make logistics more efficient. We should figure out ways to make better road connectivity and warehousing network, so that indirectly we can reduce the logistics cost over the years, and that automatically will add up to the bottom line of the startups, right? That will improve the margins indirectly. So yep, I think like all the time infra is not alone about funding, that is also about how we so we need to figure out all the pain point of the starters. So if we are spending like 14-15% of our cost in logistics, right, of our overall cost, that itself is a huge pain, right? We need to figure out how to make that efficient, so that itself will improve the margins over the long term.
On the basis of which, what could be the expectations from the economy, or whether strong reform agendas can be carried forward?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Sorry, I was a bit late. So I think I will give perspective more from an investor point of view, so which is my domain. And so whatever investment happens, it happens through AIF, Alternate Investment Fund. So what I feel, I think currently India has about 13.5 trillion of AIF book, which actually can go up to 100 trillion in the next decade. That the government has to see how there's a greater domestic participation. In this, for this, to growing this, there has to be rationalization for the taxation of the AIF and private structure, along with the category C and private credit, because there's a lot of demand for now the private credit which is coming up, which actually fuels the leverage buyout, growth funds. But typically corporates, or the mid companies, they raise private capital, not only private equity, I'm talking about private credit also for their growth. So that has to be seen by the government in the budget. Rationalization of the long-term capital tax, and they have a parity between the startup and the listed and the unlisted shares. Always there has been a huge issue of the the taxation between the shares which are listed and unlisted, and also in that the ESOP. The ESOP, there had been a perennial problem on the taxation of the ESOP. Yeah, ultimately, while ESOPs are good, but if there's so much of tax hidden in that, employees don't make money. So that also government should be looked, because ESOP taxation came about 2 decades back. Our then Finance Minister Pranab Mukherjee bought this taxation. I think that needs to be relooked at. Align the capital gain tax treatment of, again, unlisted startup shares with listed equities. This is a perennial problem because if we don't do that, today, what is, if you're in a startup or in a scale-up company, what do you look at? You look at, apart from your salary, you look at a wealth creation which comes through your equity. So if the taxation is not looked at, it will be a challenge. I will focus a bit on the healthcare piece. I think increase in the healthcare spending to at least 2.5% of the GDP, which is not there. We need that. India's healthcare spending is way less. So I think developed countries goes up to 5%, 7%. We need at least 2.5% of the GDP, and promote the PPP structure in the Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities, which is not there. We need to, while all the government, healthcare is state subject, and different governments have their own, it's not central. PPP government, they are moving on, but I think it has to be pushed to actually strengthen the healthcare. This is what my expectation that budget we should be having this on a broader side. Thank you.
What we see normally, there are trust on pharma sector, not so much on the medical devices or healthcare equipment market. So are you looking at anything in specific that the government needs to do this, because this is also a growing area, a growing market?
Thank you for the clarification, because in healthcare sector we almost like normal human being, like even us who are not that much into our technical parts. So we always think that healthcare comprises primarily of pharma. That's not actually the true case. Medical device is almost an equally important and big segment in the world. But unfortunately in India, we do not even have a separate regulatory body for Indian medical devices. So from a perspective of a medtech innovator or medtech manufacturer, what we obviously foresee or wish that to happen is a separate regulatory body, a budget for separate R&D for medical innovations in medical technology. This medtech innovation, specifically in AI and newer generation medical devices, because now we don't even know how to manufacture an MRI machine or a CT scan machine in India. Unfortunately, recently IIT Kharagpur and IIT Delhi, they made a joint venture and they have developed an MRI machine. They have promised to supply the machine to any hospitals or any institute within rupees 50 lakhs. But that is still not achieved. It will be only achieved if we get the raw materials of healthcare in a subsidized rate. The taxation or burden, the import duty burden for any medical device raw material is far higher than the finished goods. That needs to change, because if the government do not increase taxation on final product, finished goods, and if they keep on imposing more duty on the raw materials, it will always play on the reverse psychology. We as consumers, we would be needing more finished goods than the raw materials. Only if the reverse happens, if the upside, what we call from our terms that the reverse psychology should be on action, then only the manufacturers or the innovators in India would be thinking of assembling in India. That will bring down the cost, that will make affordable healthcare far more easily achievable. Because till now, even if you talk about government schemes like Ayushman Bharat and everything, even there, the budget, the cost that is given to per patient, that is quite low to only support very low cost, Indian products. But if that can be brought, if for example, one package in sports medicine or ligament surgery, the budget is 40,000. Within 40,000, it includes the hospital stay, the doctor's fees, and everything. So what is left for the implant? There's only maybe 15,000 or 10-15,000 is left for the implant. So obviously, you can only provide very low quality of implant to the patient. If that is brought higher, then it will promote the doctor to use a MNC, a multinational implant or an imported implant. But that shouldn't happen. Even if the budget is brought higher, we should still go ahead with Indian. But the quality is again the question. We are unable to access low-priced, good raw materials. The only alternative is China. We don't want to go there, because ultimately, if we go to China, we can get affordable products. We can get affordable raw materials. But again, the quality will not be the same. So I think first, the reform should happen in the taxation system, the custom duty system, where it should be inverted. Raw material should cost less, finished goods should cost more. And with the recent free trade agreement, I guess, we'll be able to access better European products, better European raw materials, which can be assembled in India. And we can actually provide a good product in India, made in India. Second, innovation and R&D budget. Separate budget should be involved where we get a separate R&D budget only for medical device with a separate regulatory body. If this too happens within the next 5 years, we can assure that from our end, from any medical manufacturers and medical device manufacturers, we will be able to provide top class equipments made in India. We don't have to depend on China or any other country. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know. My firm belief is that anything which works and lasts and scales is something which is driven by market forces. And maybe subsidies and some things work, but I don't think they last that much, is my understanding. And I think in the category that we are discussing, the responsible business category or the sustainability, this thing, we see that already happening. If you see globally what is happening right now, even if you see the EU free trade agreement that is happening right now, if you are as an Indian manufacturer selling products in EU, there are for certain category of products there you will have to declare your emissions here, and you have to get assurance on the emissions. Otherwise, there are baseline set beyond which you will be fine. There's something called CBAM as a this thing where your origin, at the origin, whatever the product is, especially in the steel sector right now, which is there, that the manufacturers have to declare the emission intensity of their product. They just don't have to declare it, they have to get an assurance done on that, verify what is the intensity of the product. Now, if I am emitting more than the baseline, I'll have to pay a fine for it. That becomes a competitive layer for this business. So what I'm trying to say is that once you put a price on some of these impacts, like emissions, like other parameters, whether it is from compliance perspective or some things, it doesn't just become a morality for businesses to do. It becomes a business decision for them to follow. And I think this thing is driving a lot of innovations as well. Because when we see this, then markets start to value organizations which work responsibly, whether it is towards the environment, towards its people and all, we see a lot of innovations happening in the sectors which can help these businesses improve, whether it is about better efficiency, cleaning their supply chains, or working towards innovations in sectors like carbon capture technologies and all of these things. And this is already happening for reasons that there is financial incentives attached to it. And I see that going forward, this will continue and increase, because we cannot forget that the government of India as a whole has committed to a decarbonization goal. There is a net zero target. There is a global commitment which has happened, and those global commitments can never be met without the participation of others, which is the Indian economy. Everyone was involved, whether it is the larger corporates also, but even for SMEs also. And they will slowly trickle down. You talked about ESG. There is a lot of misunderstanding and myths around ESG right now. Maybe the larger companies have already started to work towards it, but maybe SME sector, they don't even have heard the term of what ESG is right now. And that is a risk, because they only come to hear about ESG when a larger supplier or a vendor tells them that this is the data I require to comply for my regulations. And if you don't have it, I will have to go to another vendor. That's when they start to panic and they start working. I think that reactive thing needs to go, and MSCs need to start looking at this very, very seriously, because this, when compliance comes, you react, and that is too late. Now, if you act right now, and with my experience of working with a lot of these companies right now, we can see when you start doing the right things, it pays immediately. It doesn't have to be just a compliance decision. And I'll just finish with one example, which is what happened recently in Kolkata. There is a very bad incident of a fire that happened in Kolkata, and it's a popular startup. Few people died also on this thing. Now, we can talk about one thing, that they were 100% compliant and whatever they were doing, and there was not this thing. But that is where ESG comes into the picture. It is a framework that minimizes risks. And And if they follow that framework, it is not about morality of what they did was right or wrong. That will ensure that these kind of incidents risk is significantly reduced. I don't want to get into the depth of it, but this is exactly what I am trying to place as ESG. It is not another random words which just puts in compliance, but it is a very, very good framework to follow that de-risks long-term risk. It is just the cost that we are ignoring right now. They add up into the future. That cost which markets, invisible for the markets, ESG puts that into the visibility and you take those costs in the current decision. Thank you.
We have someone here who is from the marketing side. So when it comes to marketing, you also need some kind of support. So what are your expectations in particular from the budget?
So, Ritika, I believe I have been a CA and turned into marketing for 15 years. So, I've worked with many brands, 5,000 clients like Amazon, KFC, and all. And recently, I started Vocal for Local, my brand called Love DC, where we are promoting Chayos rather than a Starbucks or Vada Pav rather than a McDonald's. So, of course, this thing need a motivation and in a good format. So, like as you said, we can talk about a lot of things, ESG and everything to be implemented, but if it is not marketed properly, it is not easy to communicate to the Indians or the consumer. I'll take a small example. Like in 2016, we started a day called 16 Jan as a startup day. Okay? It has been very popular, but government spent a fund. But till now, if you say in my family, I run a startup, I invest into startup, and I'm a type member, charter member. But in my family, no one understand कि startup क्या होता है. तो मैं बोलता था कि मैं इस startup में 10-20 लाख रुपए डाल रहा हूँ, तो क्यों तू पैसे waste कर रहा है? But I'll tell you a story. 2 years back, I was at my in-laws' place. वो दिवाली जीवन जो होता है, and my सासू माँ mother-in-law was कि दीपक जी रुक के जाइए, अभी Shark Tank आने वाला है, देख के फिर जाइएगा. So that is the way, and now she understand कि अच्छा investment होता है, startup होते हैं. Now I am married for 12 years, but I think in last 2 years she has understood कि मैं करता क्या हूँ, मेरा धंधा क्या है, ठीक है. तो startups वगैरह आपको एक स्टोरी में दिखाना होता है, which I think Shark Tank India has done it very well. What Ajay saying very true, MSMEs को आज के दिन हमारे यहाँ 8 करोड़ SME है, MSME है, but उनको पता ही नहीं कि करना क्या है, and वो अपनी एक फाइट पे रन कर रहे हैं. So I strongly request कि if we can have some fun where it can be a movie or some kind of platform where it can be done कि आपको पैन कार्ड आधार तो सबको पता हो गया कहाँ से बनाना है, बट गवर्नमेंट स्कीम में लोन कहाँ मिलेंगे, ESG कैसे कंप्लाई करना है, क्या रेगुलेशन को करना है, वो सब चीज़ों को हम लोग समझ सकें. क्योंकि अभी क्या हो गया ना, साइलो में सब चल रहे हैं. जैसे what you have said is a very right thing कि हम लोग लॉजिस्टिक कॉस्ट आज के दिन में F&B स्टार्टअप का एक बहुत बड़ा स्ट्रगल पॉइंट है, and with giant like Swiggy and Zomato, everyone taking a cut. So just sharing e-commerce जो हम लोग आज के दिन बोलते हैं, ये स्टार्ट हुआ था फॉरेन कंट्रीज में. इसको स्टार्ट किया गया था इस कॉन्सेप्ट से कि आपके घर बहुत दूर दूर है, इंडिया की तरह नहीं है, ठीक है, वहाँ पे बहुत दूर है. तो अगर मैं स्टोर खोलूँगा तो मेरा वहाँ पे रेंट और मैन पावर कॉस्ट बहुत हाई होगा. तो रिक्वेस्ट किया गया था कि आप एक वीक में एक बार ऑर्डर कर लो मेडिसिन या फिर फूड, और हम आपको कुरियर करके पहुँचा देंगे. तो हमारी कॉस्ट ऑफ इकोनॉमी बहुत कम थी. इंडिया में क्या हुआ है, या फिर अभी लोगों ने सब पागलपंती की तरह, मैं बोलूँगा, सॉरी फॉर द वर्ड, बट लोग ई कॉमर्स में चल रहे हैं. ऐसे चल रहे हैं कि घर पे 12 तल्ला पे एक बंदा बैठा है, उसके घर के नीचे में एक रेस्टोरेंट है, उसको रात को 2 बजे मन हुआ कि रोल खाना है, उसने जोमेटो पे जाके ऑर्डर दिया. 4 किलोमीटर एक बंदा सो रहा है, वो उड़ के कपड़े पहना, अपनी बाइक लिया, वो यहाँ पे आया, उसके लिए रोल पैक कराया, पूछा कि सर आपका एड्रेस से भी लिखा है गलती से. तो नहीं, मैं 12 तल्ले में. तो 12 तल्ला नहीं उतरना चाह रहा था, उसके लिए उसने 4 किलोमीटर आने का जाने का तेल जला दिया, ठीक है. और इसको हम लोग बोलते हैं ई कॉमर्स, या हम लोग ये ग्रो नहीं करते. So as a Love Desi, we believe we should support localization. It should be in a right way कि हम लोग इसको spend करें. हाँ, लॉजिस्टिक ऑफ कोर्स इंफ्रा अच्छा होगा तो काफ़ी अच्छा होगा, बट हम लोग रॉन्ग वे से उसको स्पेंड नहीं करने लग जाए एक दूसरों को. सो आई वुड से जो मार्केटिंग आपको क्वेश्चन डायरेक्ट है, it should be properly marketed and communicated कि लोग उसमें move करें, and maybe government spends some amount. I know some internal governments they are doing something. So we run digital marketing, which is a growing industry. So they are making an app and investing into some startups to stop us spend on the meta ad or Insta. क्योंकि आज के दिन में वहाँ पे 15-20 करोड़ spend होते हैं. So they are doing a part, but it should be more allocated fund for this budget.
The real estate sector gets a boost and then eventually it will percolate down to this electrical goods market, or is there anything that you are expecting in particular for your sector?
First of all, you have asked for the housing section. The government should relax the EMI loan deduction. It should be raised from 2 lakhs to 5 lakhs per file. It will add to the power of middle class buying more flats, not just for the rental, for their family use. Because when you start a family, the family stays in a 2-bedroom flat. But when the family grows up, you may need a 4-bedroom flat, then a 6-bedroom duplex. So this will be helpful in aiding the middle class. And secondly, the government should focus on SEZ. I am speaking for the industries. We are dependent on the industries for our sales. You all may not know, Havells India Limited is a proud member of Calcutta Electric Dealer Association. You all know the legendary company. We have 2 more companies who are the legendary member of our. One is Capcom. Capcom manufactures electrical ACSR conductor. The conductor is used in drawing lines from the transmission stations to the reporting stations. And the second company you may have the turnover of Capcom is 3,000 crores approximately. The second company is Gloucester Cables Limited. It manufactures HT and LT cables. Their turnover is around 2,000 crores. The government, by aiding the SEZs, giving tax reforms to the industries will pan out throughout India, in all the economic zones of India. The government has focused largely on the highway sector, the last mile connectivity since last 12 years. Even the Atal Bihari Vajpayee's government focused on it. Our raw materials, the electrical products, are required at the steel construction company, steel manufacturing company, and the cement manufacturing company. They require all our items. So if the government delivers the highway through the last mile of India, the steel and cement industry will boom like anything. And India will develop into a superpower. And for superpower, our country, what is the definition of a developed nation? The healthcare should be free for all, and primary education should be free of all. The government is taking steps into transforming India into a developing nation. Thanks.
I will again restrict myself to manufacturing sector or a business sector rather than individuals, right? I think that I think a lot of people, most of us are from the MSME sector only, and as we all mentioned, that this is the backbone of our economy. Still, we are struggling with huge compliance challenges. All of us, I think that without any exception, each and every entrepreneur in this country is suffering with a huge compliance. There are various tax regimes, various assessments, various submission of forms in different departments. I think that when this government had come, we had dreamt of ease of doing business. Maybe something has happened on that line, but a lot is left for this SME and MSME sector to feel that ease of doing business. Where the submissions, the returns are getting more complicated every time. GST is not an easy job unless you hire a profession. You are surely going to pay penalties. So at the end of the day, I don't think that where we are heading. This ease of business, I think, should be a great focus from all the brainy people are sitting on the top. Something has to be done drastic over here so that we as an entrepreneur can focus on doing business. Pay taxes, we have to pay taxes, but at least the constructive time is focused on doing business rather than our energy is focused on doing business rather than making those compliances and making ourselves compliant. I think the huge work is required for all of us.
From the startups perspective, also you mentioned something in your previous earlier comment, but coming to this point in particular, ease of doing business. Many of the startups they go down shutters after some time because of this compliances and so many norms and others. Although on paper that startups are supposed to be spared of so many things, but still ground zero there are problems. So, what is your take on that?
Absolutely. I feel that apart from logistics, if I talk about other pain point, I think compliance is one of it. The cost of running a business, right? That automatically impacts your margins. So, today it's high time we should make compliance not just simplified but super simplified, because that is the way forward if we want to make or take India to 30-50 trillion dollar economy in the next 10, 20, 30 years. So this is something which we should can't avoid at any cost. So compliance is one part. Again, I think the another pain point would be getting payments on time. So a lot of MSME and then small businesses struggle a lot with working capital. So I think there has to be something where we should enforce to the large enforce for making payment on time to large corporate bodies and government bodies, so that this small businesses get payments on time, and which will solve their working capital problem. Because today, I keep meeting so many founders, these people are actually not struggling with lack of ideas, they're struggling with lack of funds. So I think this is a problem, getting payments on time and then compliances, and if we can work on it and make much better maybe in the next 4-5 years, things will definitely be better. Yeah.
So I think there are good number of angel investor network across the country who come at seed level. See, coming at a seed level, which is a startup, just at the beginning, even a pre-A series, there you require a very separate skill set, right? So I think there are multiple angel network is there. Secondly, many of you won't know there's a MSME VC fund which is there by the government. When in Calcutta is there and the fund is not utilized. It's a purely VC fund for the startups. So at that level, I think it is available. What the problem we have seen in the and there are incubation centers across. So that is well covered. What problem happens is the idea doesn't get a POC. Probably the another problem I've seen with the startup is they want to do entire thing on the investor money, which is not possible. First, you have to do with your own money. Otherwise, you're an employee. If you're coming to me and saying that you give the entire money and I'll work for you and I'll give you 25%, you're actually an employee for me. Why will I give you 25%? So that mindset needs to change. But I think there's an adequate amount of fund available on the seed level. Obviously, on the next level, if you go, which is the scale-up level or the bigger level, then there are structured institutes are there, the family offices, the private equity, VCs are enough there and it's enough covered. So, I'll let me tell you all this AIFs are increasing in India. And I give you a number that this number is there, but there's a lot of AIF which is good, because then the money is coming in a very structured way rather than giving in an offbeat way.
CSR, which is corporate social responsibility, and also working in the sustainability space, what Ajay was talking about. My question is not to anyone, but in general, we can go back to the time when COVID was there and we were confined to our homes, and we were very good in terms of our business, our systems, our process, our technology, but the environment was not good or conducive for us to operate, and we struggled to even go out, and we struggled to spend the money that we had in the bank account and in our wallet. So my question is, in terms of ensuring a good business environment, okay, where business can thrive, okay, what measures can the government take? One is there's a lot of talk that is happening about there are two things that is applicable to all areas. One is sustainable and responsible business practice, what Ajay spoke about, and the other one is use of technology and AI. Or AI is the disruptor or the enhancer of the business or the enabler of the business. So my question is, which are the specific areas? For example, the skilling sector. No one spoke about skilling, livelihood, jobs. Okay, how to increase jobs. The gig economy is being talked about. We're talking about e-commerce and quick commerce. Okay, so there are certain emerging sectors that the government has to focus on to make sure that we as a country, grow, and of course the GDP of the country improves or better growth rate is achieved. So I'm talking about sector-specific interventions by the government. Okay, for me, because of my profession, I think sustainability is important. CSR is important for corporates. Now the new bill is coming up where government is now making CSR applicable to not just 5 crore company, but to also 3 crore companies. Okay, and that's going to be a big kind of a responsibility for a lot of business houses. MSMEs who are now exporting to foreign countries with this new, the free trade agreement will have to follow ESG norms and sustainability norms, and they have to pay fines for not being able to, fulfill the carbon kind of target. So sector-specific interventions, okay, is required. So according to you, because I'm only from the CSR sustainability, and of course we've got a diverse group out here, which are the specific sectors? For me, it is skilling, gig economy, to be able to improve the livelihood or the income generating status, okay, and sustainability in general. Which are the other sectors?
Because of the AI coming in, and with the issues with H-1B visas, which are having the problems we are having with US, so there's a lot of risk of losing the job opportunities for Indians across. But nevertheless, I think that India is on the right track as far as artificial intelligence is concerned, adoption of artificial AI is concerned. And a lot of things need to happen around AI, which will support the entire business MSME segment or entire business segment around AI. So a lot of work needs to be done around AI, and I think that it's not just a threat, but it is an opportunity as well. And I think that if you remember that one of the first summits on AI, international summits, was with France and India when our Prime Minister was there in Paris and was talking about AI. That was around 1 year. I think India is taking good, strong steps towards ensuring that the AI is being adopted in our country, and we are having an edge over creating the job around AI as well. So that is one. Technology is going to be a very semiconductors which are coming in a big way in our country. So a huge opportunity for technology-based jobs to be created in the country. I think a lot is being done in that area. Semiconductors are going to be revolutionizing the country in the next 3 years. We'll be seeing a huge change in production also and in employment also. Because once we are becoming strong in the production of semiconductors in our own country, a lot of manufacturing opportunities will be developed in our country. So I'm quite upbeat about that.
On that spirited note, I'm sure all the speakers and all the attendees, they have agreed to one important thing, that we are kind of take up stage. So if things are done properly, then we can definitely move to the next level. Not always government needs to do everything. The other stakeholders, they also need to play their bit, so that the country as a whole can move to the next level. Thank you everybody for being here and for this fascinating discussion. Thank you, Milda, for organizing the right discussion, right topic at the right moment. I think the last word should go to you.
Thank you. So it was a very interesting discussion we had. And finally, it all boils down to the budget being very effective and very useful to the citizens of the country. That's extremely important. So whatever we discuss, end of the day, it matters how the budget proves itself, to all the concerned stakeholders, and the stakeholders happen to be the citizens. So that is all. I sum it up, and thank you everyone for your time and attention. So as Trump says, thank you for the attention.
আনন্দ আর ভালোবাসার দীপ্তিতে গড়া সমুজ্জ্বল পরমা, ঠিক তোমারই মতো। শ্যাম সুন্দর কোম্পানি জুয়েলার্স, আগরতলা, উদয়পুর, ধর্মনগর, কলকাতা।